Let me ask you something. What would you do if your enemy just refused to die? I'm not talking about a movie. I'm talking about a very real, very terrifying question that some of the best fighter pilots in the world had to ask themselves thousands of feet in the air over Europe. What happens when you pour everything you have into your opponent and they just keep coming?
So let's put a number on this. 21. That's the number of direct 20mm cannon shells that a single American fighter plane took in one engagement. Now, to be clear, just one or two of those shells were designed to literally tear the wing off of just about any other plane in the sky. This plane took 21 of them.
And if you think that's unbelievable, it gets crazier. Add to those 21 cannon hits more than 200 machine gun strikes. The aircraft was basically a flying piece of Swiss cheese. Its systems were shot, its pilot was trapped inside a burning cockpit, and yet it was still flying. So how in the world is that even possible?
Well, today we're diving into the story of an aircraft that didn't just bend the rules of air combat, it completely rewrote the book. This is the story of the Republic P-47 Thunderbolt. And you've got to understand, this wasn't just another plane. It was a revolution in thinking, a whole different philosophy of war that psychologically shattered its opponents for one simple reason. It was, for all intents and purposes, unkillable. And really, the only way to understand this flying fortress is to see it through the eyes of a man who survived something that no one should have survived. So let's talk about a 23-year-old pilot from Oklahoma, Second Lieutenant Robert S. Johnson. Back in June of 1943, he's flying at 28,000 feet, and his entire world just explodes.
See, his squadron got ambushed by elite German Focke-Wulf 190s, diving right out of the sun. Johnson's plane took the full force of the attack. Cannon shells just obliterated his canopy. Hydraulic lines burst, spraying burning fluid into his eyes. Shrapnel tore into his leg, and get this, a machine gun bullet actually creased the tip of his nose. The engine's on fire, and when he tries to bail out, the canopy is jammed shut. He is trapped in a 7-ton coffin, hurtling towards the ground.
But then, something impossible happens. The fire just goes out. On its own. Half-blind, wrestling with controls that are barely working, Johnson somehow levels the plane out. But it's not over. A lone German ace swoops in to finish him off. He makes pass after pass, just hammering the Thunderbolt with machine gun fire. And Johnson can do nothing but sit there and take it. Finally, the German pilot, now completely out of ammo, pulls up alongside Johnson's wreck of a plane. He just looks over at this ghost of an aircraft that's still in the air, and he waggles his wings, a sign of respect, and then turns for home. Against every odd in the book, Robert Johnson made it back to England.
Now you hear a story like that and you think, that's a 1-in-a-million fluke. But it wasn't. Johnson's survival was the direct result of a radical, deliberate design choice. It was a clash of two totally different philosophies of air combat, playing out in steel and aluminum, thousands of feet in the air.
And this right here tells you everything you need to know. Just look at the tail of the tape. The P-47 Thunderbolt, at 17,500 pounds, was more than double the weight of Germany's legendary Bf-109. See, European designers were obsessed with creating light, agile, high-performance thoroughbreds. They were like scalpels for the sky. The Americans? Well, they built a heavyweight boxer, a literal flying tank.
And this was no accident. It was a core American principle, survivability as doctrine. The designer, a man named Alexander Cardvelli, he made a conscious, almost heretical choice. He decided that the single most valuable weapon in an air war isn't the plane. It's the trained, experienced pilot sitting inside it. So the #1 job of the aircraft wasn't to be the fastest or the most nimble. Its primary mission was to bring that pilot home no matter what.
And here's how they did it. The P-47 was just deliberately over-engineered for survival. The main spar holding the wings on, a single piece of forged aluminum, 4 inches thick. The pilot sat inside what they called an armored bathtub made of hardened steel. The fuel tanks had layers of rubber that would swell up and seal bullet holes in seconds. And then there was that absolute beast of a radial engine up front. Unlike the sleek, liquid-cooled engines of its enemies, this thing was a brute. It had no vulnerable radiator, no coolant lines to get punctured. You could literally shoot entire cylinders clean off and it would just keep running. It basically acted as a giant shield for the pilot sitting behind it.
You know, this whole philosophy was so completely alien to the Germans that their own intelligence services initially wrote the P-47 off as a total joke. They looked at the photos and the specs and concluded it was a clumsy, inefficient mistake that would be an easy kill. It was a catastrophic miscalculation, one that would have profound consequences for their very best pilots.
Because you see, fighting the P-47 wasn't just a tactical problem for the Luftwaffe. It became a mental one. I mean, just imagine it. You're one of the most skilled pilots in the world, you believe your aircraft is the best, and then you run into an enemy that simply refuses to play by the rules, by refusing to fall out of the sky.
This quote from Major Heinz Baer, one of Germany's top aces, just cuts right to the heart of it. It was psychological warfare. Think about that. They knew their aim was perfect. They could see huge chunks of the plane flying off. But the Thunderbolt just soaked it all up and kept on coming. It broke the fundamental rule of air combat. You shoot something, it's supposed to fall down.
And if you want to know how deep this went, listen to this. Gunther Rahl was the third highest scoring ace in all of history. He flew one mission against P-47s, emptied his cannons into one, and watched in total disbelief as it turned and nearly shot him down. He then went to his commander and requested a transfer back to the Eastern Front. Let that sink in. He would rather go fight against the overwhelming numbers of the Soviet Air Force because, in his own words, the mathematics were better. At least over there, when you hit a plane, it actually went down.
The effect was so profound that the Luftwaffe had to literally change its official combat doctrine. The old rules, all that stuff about elegant dogfighting and energy maneuvering, they threw it out the window. The new directive for fighting P-47s was blunt. Get the kill on your very first pass. Don't assume smoke or fire means a thing. And most importantly, get out of there, because that plane you just killed is still more than capable of killing you.
And the raw data shows exactly why. I mean, the P-38 Lightning was a fast twin-engine interceptor. The British Spitfire was a masterpiece of agility. But just look at these loss rates. A combat loss rate of 0.7% for the Thunderbolt isn't just a number. It means for every 100 missions, nearly twice as many P-38 or Spitfire pilots didn't come home compared to P-47 pilots. This wasn't just about saving airplanes. It was a strategy for mass-producing combat veterans right in the middle of a war.
So this incredible survivability, it had this ripple effect that went way beyond just individual dogfights. It ended up shaping the entire air war over Europe, and it created a strategic advantage that the enemy, frankly, had no answer for.
And this, right here, is the ultimate point. German engineering created incredible machines designed to win a dogfight. American engineering created machines designed to win a war. They were fighting a war of attrition, and they understood a simple, brutal truth. An aircraft is replaceable. But a veteran pilot, someone who survived his mistakes, learned the hard lessons, and can now lead new pilots into combat, that person is priceless. The P-47 didn't just protect its pilots. It was a factory for creating an unbeatable pool of combat experience.
Maybe nobody said it better than another German ace, Johannes Steinhoff. In the end, their fortresses defeated our thoroughbreds. What a powerful admission. He's saying the war wasn't won by the most elegant or agile machine, but by the most resilient one. It was a victory of durability over delicacy.
And that philosophy? It didn't just end in 1945. Oh no. The P-47's DNA, its emphasis on redundant systems, pilot protection, the sheer ability to take a beating and still get home, you can trace it through generations of legendary American aircraft. From the F-6 Sabre in Korea to the F-4 Phantom in Vietnam, all the way up to the modern A-10 Thunderbolt II, which is literally named in its honor. An aircraft so famously tough, they call it the Warthog. The lesson of the P-47 endures to this day.
So, we end right back where we started, with a question. The story of the P-47 Thunderbolt really forces us to think about what victory actually means. Is it about having the sharpest, most finely honed weapon, or is it about having the sheer, stubborn resilience that just lets you outlast your enemy? The P-47 makes a powerful case that sometimes the greatest strength is simply the refusal to fall.